about a situation that somebody was telling me about where a wife was worried for her husband to have a gun in the house, or guns. He didn't have any, and she was worried for him to purchase a gun or guns because of the fact that she says he has a short temper or is prone to anger. Now, from what I gather, this guy's not a felony. He's not a domestic abuser. And I don't think she necessarily means anger toward her, just anger in general. At anything, at any given thing. So the question is if a guy who has a short temper has a gun in the house, is he any more likely to snap and kill somebody than if he didn't have a gun in the house? And the answer to that is no. Definitely no. The decision to kill comes from up here, not from in the gun. The tool does not make the decision makes the tool. I would tell that woman, do you have knives in your home? In the kitchen? Do you have rope that he could strangle you with? Does he have two hands that he could strangle you with? Or anybody? I shouldn't just say her, because I don't think she meant that the anger was toward her, just anger in general if he gets mad. What about his hands? He could strangle someone with, like I said, knives. Having a gun around does not influence someone's emotion to kill. Guys in prison kill. They sharpen the ends of toothbrushes on the concrete. I guess sharpen might be the wrong word. They take toothbrushes and take the one end of it, and they use friction on the concrete and get that plastic material into a pointy object. Kill with that. They get shanks, they kill with that. Most serial killers, except for Son of Sam, have never used a gun. So you see, if you decide up here to kill, the only thing left is the question is how effective is the tool that person is going to use. It may be easier for them to kill you with a gun than try to beat you with pots and pans. But if that person decides that they want to kill and it's been determined in their mind, the gun would have no influence on that whatsoever in making that decision. That's something that happened inside of them. It's something they already had, it was there. The gun didn't do anything to cause that determination. So, a lot of people get angry and they use slang, what I would almost call slang terms. Like they say, somebody cuts them off on the road. They say, man, I could strangle that guy right now. Now, most times we've been around people that say that, we don't take it seriously. Unless the guy actually follows him somewhere and gets out of the car behind him. But a lot of people will use slang terms like, oh man, I'm going to kill him if he did that. If he just told her that about me, I'm going to kill him. And we don't write that off as, let's call 911. A lot of people say this. They're just expressing a feeling of extreme unlike for something that happened. But there are those that have it in them to kill. And in that case, it doesn't matter if they're in a prison cell with a mattress and a toothbrush, or they're in a warehouse full of guns. A warehouse full of guns has no more influence over this guy killing someone, just as putting him in a room of stuffed animals, putting a killer in a room full of stuffed animals, would make the serial killer stop killing. Those stuffed animals wouldn't influence him to stop doing what he's doing, because it's in him. So that's just a few of my thoughts on that subject, and I thought I'd just turn on the camera here while I had some time and talk about that. You know, for the normal human being, I've said this before, your anger switch is not connected to your gun switch. The gun is for self-defense, to save lives of others, you know, different things like that. I could be in a store and have two guns on me, and somebody comes up and says, "Hey man, you just walked in front of me, you just cut in front of me," starts cussing me out in my face. There would be nothing in me that says, pull this gun and blast this guy. That thought would never even enter my mind, you know? This guy hasn't committed a felony. He hasn't attacked me physically. That thought would never enter my mind. Now, if this guy beat me down on the ground and was on top of me and beating me to a point where I felt like I was going to have serious bodily harm or possibly death, then the instinct in my mind would say, you need to draw the gun. That's the only time I would have that instinct. I would never have that instinct because somebody cuts me off. It's happened several times. Never even thought of my gun. It'd be just like the same as me thinking about you know, a $5 bill I have folded up in my pocket. It just doesn't even enter my mind. Somebody pulls in front of me and cuts me off or whatever. I no more think about the gun than I would that $5 bill folded up in my pocket at that time. The only time I'm going to think about that gun involving any situation I'm in is if I have fear of serious bodily harm or death. And remember, guys, the trick is to use the force necessary to stop at a point before you are dead or near death. You don't have to let somebody have a certain amount of injuries on you before you can use force. I guess I swung this into a whole different branch of the tree here, but just go with me on it. You don't have to go to court and say, well, this guy was kicking me with a steel-toed boot and I was on the ground and I couldn't stand up. And I waited approximately 6 kicks until I felt a flap of skin move away from the skull and I could see my blood running down the drain. Then I thought it was okay for me to shoot and stop the threat. You're not shooting to kill somebody. You're shooting to stop the threat. If that person dies if that person dies in the course of you stopping the threat, well, then that's what happens. If you shoot once and the threat stops, but he's walking or running away, or he's no longer kicking you with a steel-toed boot, at that point in time, you don't have a threat on you anymore. If you shoot that threat and the shot happens to hit vital, and that man drops to the ground, well, that was a consequence of shooting to stop the threat. But remember, you don't have to have a certain amount of injury to equate using deadly force. Now, you can't just stand toe-to-toe with a guy and he smacks you in the side of the face and you pull out and shoot and say, well, you know, could this, you know, maybe this guy could have escalated into further. You can't do that. Don't, you know, don't be ignorant about the things. But if you're in a position where somebody has complete control over you and they're in the dominant position and you can't get this to stop, you don't have to let injuries get to the point to where it's evident you were close to being unconscious, being dead. That's the whole point. You would be dumb to let it get to that point. Okay, so I don't know how I swung off on that tree branch, guys. I'm sorry. But sometimes it happens when you're doing a video and it just was on my mind, so I just kind of flowed with it. But that's some of my thoughts. Maybe I'll do a more detailed video on self-defense and spell out my thoughts kind of across the board. Maybe give you a little bit more insight on some self-defense things. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in a while. Have a good day.